Are you hungry?
Give me something good.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of Görgött. Today we're making dessert again. I thought it was time for some sweet stuff. We're making a tarte à la crème, which is basically a cream pie, but it's a very typical Swiss dessert. You found it in both the French-speaking and the German-speaking part. But before we get to the ingredients, as always, please do me the favor and support the channel by clicking the subscribe button and checking the bell icon to get notifications. And now let's have a look at the board. So these are the ingredients we need. Obviously you can see the pie part is done, and we need to make the filling. We have 7 egg yolks. We have 250 milliliters of normal cream. We have 350 milliliters of double cream. We have 150 grams of sugar, and we have 1 vanilla pod. But we'll first start with the pie, or with the dough and the pie. I'll show you how I did that. This is what we all need for the dough. Quite simple. 250 grams of flour, a teaspoon of salt. Now you might think salt, it's a dessert, but I like the play between salty and sweet. That's why I make a salty dough. But if you don't like that, by all means put some sugar in it. So 250 grams of flour. To that we need half of that in butter, 125 grams, and it needs to be cold butter, so it comes from the fridge right now. And we're going to need 1 egg afterwards. It's been beaten already. And I put 1 teaspoon of salt in. We can already put all of our butter in. Divide it out a little bit. Makes it easier to work. It's also easier to cut it first, like portion it, and then cool it again, so that each of these portions are cooled. Now we can start kneading that. And obviously the easiest way to do that is just to get in with your hands. Be careful at the beginning, otherwise the flour will go everywhere, like you see that it did for me. And once you get to this stage where all the flour has been incorporated into the butter, although not much, but it's like grainy instead of pure flour and pure butter. Now it's time to put in the egg. And now we just incorporate the egg as well. And this will slowly come together into a beautiful dough. Like this. This is perfect. And easy to remember. The amount of flour divided by 2 is the amount of butter, and 1 egg and some salt. So 250, 125. Now, cling film around this, into the fridge for half an hour, and then we'll continue from there. For the next step, we need a rolling pin, our baking form, and 2 pieces of baking paper. Now scrunch these together. And open them up again. I'll tell you why. And that's because they fit easier into the baking form. We have our 2 sheets scrunched up and then made nice again. We put our dough in the middle, more or less. We'll put 1 on top. And now we want to flatten it with our hand first of all. It's easier to do with the hand first and then with the rolling pin. So a bit of manual work. Correct it again. And now use your rolling pin. You want more or less a round, because it has to fit into the baking tray, and about 4 millimeters thick. So it should look something like this. Take 1 layer off. Save this for later, because we need it when we're going to blind bake it with lentils or beans or whatever you have. So put this to the side. And now for this one. You don't have to do it like this with a baking paper, but to me it's another layer of security. You can just butter the baking tray as well. I think this, like this, you know for sure it's not going to stick. And just work it in. Lifting up the edges to help. like this, and then turn it back over. And now the easiest way to get rid of the overhang is just to use your rolling pin again and use that to kind of cut off the excess dough. Oops, sorry for the noise. And then you can just lift this off. And if you see somewhere where it's maybe a little bit little, I don't know if you can see here, you can add some of the excess dough, your extra dough, and put it there to kind of fill it in. That's a good thing with dough, right? It's pliable, it's like Play-Doh. Like that. And now we're going to put it in the fridge again for about half an hour. But before we do that, or just after you did that, preheat your oven. It needs to go to 190 degrees, top bottom heat. So 190 degrees. This goes in the fridge for half an hour, and then I'll see you afterwards. Our dough is rested, or our pie by now. The second sheet that we put to the side, just put that in carefully. And then we have some lentils here. I'm actually going to take them out. You don't need to use lentils. Whatever helps it weigh down. Just distribute this evenly. Like that. Goes into our preheated oven. It's 190 degrees, like I said, and it should be in there for about 15 minutes now. So we'll put it in, and I'll see you in 15 minutes. 15 minutes are done. Now we'll take the weight away. And now it goes back in for another 3-4 minutes to get a bit of color. So I'll see you in 3-4 minutes. So this is what you're looking after. Now I turned the oven down to 140 degrees and left it open because we want it to cool a bit. But while it cools, we will get some of the egg whites. You saw the egg yolks when we looked at the ingredients. These are the egg whites from that, and we're just gonna paint the egg whites on here to kind of close the, I would say close the pores. So paint the whole dough. That's it. And I will put this back in just for a minute or two. To get the pores to close. So our pie is basically done and ready to be filled. So let's get back to the overview of the board. So as you can see, it's not difficult to make your own dough and make your own pie. It takes a bit of time, but it's not working time, it's waiting times for things to cool in the fridge and so on, and to bake it. But now let's move on to the filling. I'll move the egg yolks into a larger bowl. We need to split our vanilla pod. Just lengthwise, so that you can scrape out the good stuff. Sometimes it can be a bit, not difficult, but challenging. And just take the back of your knife and scrape through the whole thing. Turn it around so that we get everything. That goes into the eggs. The smell of vanilla is fantastic. And now let's just mix the yolks with the vanilla. Now we add the sugar. Now we need to beat this until it gets kind of a lighter yellow color. That's the lighter color we're looking for. Now get the cream. There we go. Put everything in. Now, this is not the dessert if you count in calories. And that's why you should use the double cream. You can use just normal cream. You can use a mix of milk and cream, but the double cream makes it much better. Make sure you mix everything nicely together. And now that's ready to go into our pie. Let's get our pie in there. Let's get rid of the whisk. You need a ladle and a sieve. Then you're going to ladle into the sieve. And this is to avoid getting air bubbles. Because you want the end result to be nice and creamy and compact. Don't be in a hurry. This will take a minute or two. And fill it 2-3 millimeters below the edge. That's perfect. Our oven has cooled down to 140 degrees. It's important that you let it cool down, because otherwise you'll end up with a bit of kind of scrambled egg texture inside if you're unlucky. We'll put this in now. It should be in for 40 minutes at least, could be 50 as well. I would suggest after 40 minutes, shake it a bit. It's okay that it wobbles, because it's going to set once it cools down. But if it's wobbling a lot, leave it another 10 minutes. So check it a bit, 40 to 50 minutes. So I'll see you in about, just under an hour. Look at this beauty. Straight out of the oven, and now comes the most difficult part of this recipe. Wait until it's cool. The waiting is horror because it's so good. But let it cool for about half an hour here. Then take it out of the baking form, put it in the fridge for another at least hour. And then we can try it. So I'll see you in about an hour and a half. It's nice and cold. That really is the hardest part, waiting for it to cool down. Now, I want to eat this pure. If you want, you could put some sugar on it and caramelize it with a blowtorch or in the oven underneath the grill. But it's sweet enough. I don't think it needs the crackling of caramelized onion, but just want to give you the option. You could also put some nice berries on it or something like that. Could go nice with a bit of acidity. But I enjoy this pure. So let's cut the slice. And now let's dig in. Can't wait for this. It could probably have cooled for another half hour, but it's firm enough. You're not going to regret making this, I can tell you. And I just love how the saltiness goes so well with the sweet. And it's so creamy. It's one of these things that is really the definition of straight from your lips to your hips. In my case, straight from my lips to my stomach, but once in a while, right? Now, it's a very simple dish. It's a very traditional Swiss dish. I hope you enjoyed it. I, for one, for sure did. If you did enjoy it and enjoyed this episode, do me the favor, support me and the channel by hitting that thumbs up button. It's very important that you hit the thumbs up because that helps the channel get a wider audience. So do that favor for me. But that's it for this time. Before you leave, also don't forget to subscribe and the bell icon. Take care until next time. Bye-bye.